And we are live. Welcome to the Tech Coach Special Back to School Edition on the Wakelet YouTube channel. We're excited to really host two incredible tech coaches from the Wakelet community today. And we are so excited to see where you're from. I know some of you have been popping in the chat telling us where you're from. Portugal, Germany, Texas, Atlanta. We're so excited. Also, tell us what your role is. So if you are a tech coach or you're an educator or you're just here to find out more about Wakelet, maybe you don't know what Wakelet is, we would love to hear about your mini Wakelet story in the chat. I am Tisha Poncio, Digital Learning Specialist at Wakelet. And I get to work with all of you, the community, the Wakelet community, as well as work with school districts all over the US and share all of the great things that you are doing with Wakelet to show teachers the power of Wakelet. So I am joined by two incredible people today, Jennifer Hall and Hugh Burke. And if you do not know these two incredible tech coaches, you are going to be blown away. They have great energy. They have great shares. They have great Wakelet profiles also. But I'm going to introduce them really quickly. Jennifer Hall, she is from Atlanta Public Schools, and she is a national certified teacher. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Yep, national board certified.
That's incredible. I'm telling you, if you haven't seen Jennifer, be ready. You can already tell by her little Bitmoji on the side. She's going to bring her greatness today. And then we have tech coach and fellow Texan, Hugh Burke, who also has his own Bitmoji on the side, right, Hugh? And so I am so excited. Check out the chat, you two, and see if you recognize any names that look familiar. We have some teachers who really want to use Wakelet in their schools. I'm trying to see. I did see somebody from Texas, so shout out to the Texans, Karen Young.
I think I saw one of my colleagues from here in Atlanta, one of our Bills coaches. So super excited to see a teammate here.
I love it. Croatia, the Philippines, Romania. There's so many people all over the world. What I love about this community, and I know both of you know this, but it's the global community that we have where we all come together, we share ideas, we share how we're using Wakelet, and we just really get inspired by each other. So I am just going to let you guys take it away because I want you to have all the time in the world to talk about Wakelet. We could talk about it all day, but we want to show our audience the greatness of it. So Hugh, if you are ready, we're going to let you just dive right in.
All right, I'm ready. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, first of all, hello everyone from all over the world. This is really exciting to join Tisha and Jen today just to talk about how Wakelet has found its way into what I do as a digital learning coach, is what we call it here in Temple ISD, Temple, Texas. But yeah, as a tech coach, how I have used Wakelet and hopefully made Wakelet become a part of what the teachers that I serve do as well, and the students as well. So the first thing that I want to share with everyone today is my team. This department that I'm a part of, we're the digital learning department here in Temple ISD, is the dream team, is what I call them. And I'm going to go ahead and open up this collection that I created here on screen. This is my Wakelet profile page, which many of you can find. I'm going to scroll on down to this collection because y'all, I would not only be remiss to not talk about my team, but I would be delusional to not talk about them. This is my second year as a tech coach, and these people that I work with are just phenomenal. I mean, this guy standing next to me here is John Woodward. He's also a Wakelet ambassador. I've learned everything I know about Wakelet from him, and this is Michael, Craig, John, myself, Najibe, and Hannah. We've also got Trey and Ashley Jones on the team, and we are lucky to work in a district that prioritizes digital learning and that prioritizes tools like Wakelet. And we get the opportunity, the incredible opportunity, to just serve teachers and help them build their craft and help them develop instruction and work with students in better ways and follow their dreams, as cheesy as it sounds. I mean, but that's what we get to do day in and day out. So I'm really blessed to be on this team. And I made this collection just to curate and gather all of the little things that we've done together throughout the 2 years that I've been here. Just so that we can look back on it and appreciate what we've done and where we've been. But I just wanted to start there because my team really means a lot to me, and everything I've learned, everything I know how to do, everything I know how to support in the teachers I'm with, I've learned from them. And we work really closely together and we really support each other. So that's my team. We're the digital learning department here in Temple. Speaking of the team, one of the tasks that we have as a department is we are tasked with building what we call blended learning as a skill set in our district. And that ties directly into how I use Wakelet as a coach, as a tech coach. So I serve 5 elementary campuses, and each of those campuses have grade level teams. And when we start talking to these teams about blended learning, we use a framework and we ask these teams to create goals, right? It's just kind of a common language of good instruction. And I'm going to jump over here back to my public profile. Actually, I think it's actually in that Dream Team collection, and open up, this progression chart right here that I do want to show to y'all. Let me just make sure that you can see. Okay, I think I need to share this screen. My apologies, I need to share this other screen real quick. This one. Okay, so this is the framework that we use when we're talking to teachers. And see, there's 4 different areas of blended learning. Many other districts out there, maybe you've discussed blended learning. All it is just a kind of an overall theory of instruction that talks about how to leverage digital tools in order to free up a teacher's ability to be as effective as possible. And we use these 4 different areas: student ownership, flexible learning environments, innovative instruction, and integrated content. And when we're talking with teacher teams, we're using this language. We're saying to a team, for example, which of these 4 areas of blended learning would you like to get better at? Which area as a team, say it's a kindergarten team or a 5th grade team, would you like to build your skill set in? Maybe they say grouping. We want to get better at grouping students in flexible ways. Maybe they say data tracking. We want to get better at helping our students track their own progress in certain learning skills. And maybe those of you in the audience are starting to kind of see how Wakelet can fit into these conversations. Well, what I wanted to talk about today is, as an instructional coach or as a tech coach, what I do in these conversations right here is a pivotal moment. What I do is I say, okay, set a goal as a team or as an individual teacher. Go ahead and set a goal using this chart. Where do you want to work toward? And once they've set this goal, that's when I go to a Wakelet collection. That's where we in our department have built these Wakelet collections that we basically point teachers toward. So to give you an example, let's say we've got a teacher that says, I want to work in flexible learning environments. This year, you know what, this year, I want to get better at how I pace my instruction, right? Well, what we would do is, and I'm going to have to share a different screen real quick, is we would meet with that teacher or that group of teachers, and I would probably, pull up my Wakelet screen here, my public profile, or maybe my collections, and I would say, check this out, grade level team. let's jump down here to blended learning, and I've got collections that are built for each of those 4 areas of blended learning. Now, this is sort of a broad step in the process. You've got a team of teachers who have decided on an area of instruction that they want to work in. And again, for this example, flexible learning environments maybe. But I know now what this group of teachers want to get better at. And so what I can say to them is, check out this collection. And we've curated resources in this collection that apply to your goal that you want to improve at. And so if I jump in here, notice that this visual here applies to the blended learning tools that we've developed as a department in our district, but everything below that is just resources that I might be sitting with this team and pull up and talk about. So you're interested in grouping your students in more flexible ways. Well, here's something that I've found that I've organized into this collection. Or you're interested in playlists and pacing your instruction in a more student-centered way. Well, here's an article that applies to that. And so on and so forth. It's sort of a way to, as a tech coach and as an instructional coach, to allow teachers to craft their own goal in terms of what they want to be better at. But then Wakelet comes in as a really useful tool for organizing resources that apply to that goal. And then when we're meeting with these teams of teachers, when we're meeting with individual teachers, I can now share these collections of resources with them. I can help them shop through these collections of resources and find ideas to actually make changes to the ways that they're teaching kids. So that's kind of the first major impact that Wakelet has made in our department as tech coaches. It is a means to get useful ideas and resources into teachers' hands. When you're working with teachers and you're helping them craft goals, you're helping them consider different ways of doing things, Wakelet comes in as a highly effective way of just organizing resources and getting them into their hands. Jumping back out into my public profile, I also, in general, in a much more general way, I create this profile as kind of just for myself, because I have a lot of conversations with teachers that we use a whole lot of different stuff all the time. Teachers are using all of the different Google tools, Jamboard, Google Slides. Maybe they're dabbling in Microsoft Teams. Maybe there's a lot of different tools that we use. And so I, as a tech coach, have created collections that also fit within each of those tools. And you'll see those here. I've got a Flipgrid collection. So when I'm also working with teachers and having conversations and maybe a certain digital resource or a digital tool comes up in conversation, I've got collections that are built by topic, so to speak. And so sometimes I'll refer to those collections in a conversation and say, well, okay, since we're talking about Flipgrid, let's take a look at this Wakelet collection and see if there's any unique ways that I've seen mentioned in a Twitter post or something out there. And then I've just collected in here, and we can maybe get ideas generated that way too. And I've found Wakelet to be really effective in that way as well. We even got a Wakelet collection about Wakelet, amazingly enough. But Google things, there's a lot down here below. So that's one thing that I've found Wakelet to be, is just a really effective way to provide organized resources when you're talking with teachers that you coach. Also, as a more general, just myself kind of use, I want to share this collection. It's this Care for Teachers collection. This is not a collection that I go to and show to teachers. I did leave it public, but it's not necessarily one that I show teachers. This is one that I keep for me. And this actually harkens back to what Tisha and Jen and I were talking right before we jumped into the live session, is this year, and I'm sure all of you feel this way too, this year and the couple of years prior to this one, it's just we as tech coaches or as instructional coaches or any support role that we're in education, it's just a unique atmosphere now where supporting and caring for teachers is really critical. And so this is a collection where when I run across things that strike a chord with me that might foster a better way for me to walk into spaces with teachers in a more considerate way, articles that help me approach designing PD in more, vivid and genuine ways, because I feel like these kinds of topics are far more critical now than they've ever been. And so I've curated stuff for myself as a tech coach as well. And these are things just that I've put in here for myself, just to keep in mind certain mindfulness techniques to keep in mind as I plan my time with teachers. Just things to keep aware of as I walk into planning and actually designing time that I spend with the teachers I work with. And so that's another way I've used Wakelet. The last thing I'll mention, and I actually mentioned this whenever I was with Wakelet back in Community Week, is this is more of a plan that I have that I haven't done yet, but I do plan on doing this year that I think Wakelet will be incredibly effective for. And I can't show anything for it because I haven't done it yet, but I do plan on doing it. Since I work closely with teacher groups and also individual teachers on their goals and on their instruction and on what they want to do, I also do go through coaching cycles with teachers. And I believe Wakelet is probably going to be very effective for maintaining digital portfolios for individual teachers. So anybody out there who's already doing this, let me know, because I'm just going to be breaking ground on this year. But I imagine myself working with an individual teacher, and they have a goal in mind. They want to get better at data tracking or goal setting or reflection, whatever it may be. And I come through and set intentional times to visit that teacher's classroom. Well, while I'm in that classroom, I could capture, images of things or shared documents with that teacher. And all of those artifacts could be collected in a private Wakelet collection, which then would only make those meetings with that teacher that much more impactful, because we have this shared collection of artifacts and things that we can pull up and visit about and talk about, and to just drive the momentum of that improvement and that growth even more. So that's kind of another thing that I plan on using Wakelet to do, that fits into the whole system of how we here in Temple drive instruction. But again, I haven't really broken ground on that yet, but I plan on doing that. So that's, I believe, everything I can think of as far as how Wakelet fits into what we do in Temple ISD digital learning, and what I like and what I'm hoping to do as a digital learning coach. It's just there's so much that it can do in terms of supporting teachers, facilitating teacher growth. I haven't even mentioned the things that you can support teachers doing with students in terms of Wakelet, but that's kind of how it fits into my sphere and what I do. And so I think I'll end there, pass it back to Tisha and Jen.
Okay. I don't know if it was just me, Hugh.
Okay.
You came in like you were not going to share a whole lot. And I'm just telling you, if you guys can see all the notes that I was writing while Hugh was talking, Jen, I don't know if you felt the same way, but I get excited. I love the Wakelet platform. It's right. It is the platform that lets us do so many things, and it's so virtual. But what I love about your shares is they were shares that not only our tech coaches that are watching can use, and we have some questions that I'm going to ask you in just a second
Okay.
already. But I love that you have found this this deeper use of Wakelet, if that makes sense. You're taking Wakelet and you're not just using it on the surface level. Now you're doing deep dives. Some notes that I took. So if you missed this and you're just tuning in to this session, Hugh is using Wakelet for goal setting for himself, goal setting for his teachers. I love that you have that for your teachers, but the blended learning, I don't know, Jen, did you feel the same when you saw his blended learning stuff? Tech coaches, we know who we are because we get excited about things like that. And one of the things I noticed that I loved, Hugh, and I hadn't even thought about this till I saw it, and it's very tiny, but you took a graphic and you annotated the graphic and you made it the Wakelet header. So it was so easy for the teachers to see what they were choosing, right? It's such a simple idea, but it's so powerful. I never thought to do that. So kudos on that.
Thank you.
And then, well, I get excited about instructional strategies. So when you started talking about pacing and how you're using Wakelet for that, I just think it's so great. If you miss that, you can watch Hugh's segment again. Make sure you go back and rewatch this because you want to see some of his shares. And I believe we have shared his resources already in the chat. So if you want to go look at that.
And I can't stress this enough, Tisha, but the what you refer to, like the language of pacing and instruction, all of that stuff, I'm leaning on my team. Like that, so much of everything that I just referred to, goal setting and how Wakelet fits into the blended learning work that we're doing I'm merely a member of a really great team. So that's why I wanted to start there.
I think it says so much about your team, though. And what I admire, Hugh, about your team over in Temple is that you all are coming together in, as you said, unique positions, and you are supporting your teachers like never before right now. And I just kudos to all of you. This quote really, really resonated with me. Wakelet is a means to get useful ideas into teachers' hands, right? Useful ideas. We are now the idea that you came up with at the very end, they were asking about this, where you are taking digital portfolios. I never thought about this, but I think this is one of the most genius ideas. Create a private digital portfolio. You all know how I feel about digital portfolios, and make that private for you and the teachers that you're coaching. This could be an instructional coaching strategy as well. Go in and add artifacts of them doing what they're doing best, right? And then reflect on it. So there's some questions in the chat specifically to that that I want to go over. So there's one from Karen Young. She says, tech coach question, our school year just started 3 weeks ago. What coaching cycle do you use? And when do you start visiting teachers and start that coaching cycle?
Good question. So it's been, I wish I could offer like a definitive, here's the protocol for our coaching cycle. But what we've done so far as a department is we've taken the Google coaching certification, which provides kind of a, at least a basic training. And, but I've been an instructional coach prior to this job. And so I've also had like the Knight is his name. What's his last name?
Yes, Jim Knight.
Jim Knight. And so I've got just kind of this understanding of how to establish a cycle with a teacher, how to identify a challenge that they may already have in their radar, how to set up scheduled meetings, and how to, and just kind of but really it's just about making yourself available to someone that's willing to engage in something that they want to improve on, and then putting in the intentional time. And there are protocols out there, I guess is what I would say, that you can definitely latch onto and use. But I think this year, speaking for myself, it's just going to be a matter of finding a handful of teachers that are willing to go through it with me, and then just schedule intentional meetings, intentional walkthroughs, find a challenge that we want to meet together. And then, Wakelet will fit in as a place to add artifacts to. And then by the end of the year, we'll have this nice collection of things to look back at and add to the conversation as we move forward.
My mind is blown. I mean, honestly, this is where you want your teachers and your tech coaches to be, right? When you find an incredible tool like Wakelet, and then you're able to really launch pad so many things in so many directions for them. Hugh, I knew this was going to be good with the two of you. I got to get a whole nother page to get ready for Jennifer Hall's share. So I'm going to give all of you out there advice, all of our viewers right now. Get your notepad, get your pen, or if you're digitally taking some notes, make sure you share those on social media. I want to come back to this, but I want Jen to have enough time to share. So Jen, we're gonna let you take over, and then we're gonna come back and do a little chat again. I have a couple of questions for you, and I'll be keeping an eye on the chat just for any questions they have for either you or Hugh again before we end our session. So Jennifer, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a tough act to follow. Thanks a lot for that, Hugh. I mean, great information. I should have, when we drew straws on who went first, I should have said, next time I'm going to know to go before Hugh, because that was awesome. So I'm going to share some of my resources and ideas for tech coaches, but a little bit about me. Again, my name is Jennifer Hall, and I'm an educational technology specialist here in Atlanta. This is my 8th year in this role. I'm a former middle school language arts teacher. And so my job is to go in and support teachers, provide them resources and training, and push into classrooms. So I get to work with students and teachers, and it's an awesome job, and support multiple schools around the district. So that's a little bit about me. And it's going to get dropped by our awesome producer behind the scenes here. This is my Wakelet collection profile, has all sorts of good stuff. The stuff I'm going to reference here, you are welcome to make a copy of quite a few of those are templates that you can grab if you are interested. So let's dive in and talk about, what's awesome about Wakelet. First of all, it keeps getting better, and they keep listening to educators and adding more resources and features. In fact, I did a training with our instructional design team just this last week on Friday, and told them, I said, I looked at Wakelet first time in like 2016 when it was brand new. And between then and now, there's so much amazing stuff and new features. And I was providing training for them because they support professional learning. And so it's a variation of a tech coach. And we were talking about ways that you might want to use Wakelet. So I'm going to share a couple of those ideas and what I think are some features that are pretty awesome that make Wakelet a powerful tool. First of all, if you're new to Wakelet, the idea that you can adjust the layout to meet your needs, and they keep adding more functionality to that, including coming soon, the ability to have columns. But that means you can create a collection that meets the needs of your learners. And so if you're a tech coach and you're supporting teachers, you can make mood boards. You can make, have it in grid view because I want you to follow it this way, or it can be, I want you to go through this as a learning module step by step. And so that layout feature and the fact that you can customize it is probably one of my favorite things. And it was mentioned just a minute ago here by Hugh talking about having a private portfolio collection. So you can use all of the awesomeness of Wakelet by the fact that you can have it be private. So if I want to just have it be things that I'm researching and using, and I don't want anybody else to see it, or I'm not ready to share it with the world, I can choose to have it be private, or I can have it be unlisted and I can share it with my team. I mean, it sounds like Hugh's team is fantastic and they share resources. I've got a dynamic team here. I got to give a shout out to, I saw a couple more of my teammates that have joined in, or I've seen them in the chat. The idea that we can share resources and we don't necessarily have to have them be public. So the fact that you can have your resources be unlisted is another powerful reason why you would want to take advantage of using Wakelet. And then of course, sharing with the world and having things be public and being able to share them with you all is pretty awesome. I mean, I go shopping for Wakelet collections and get super excited when I see amazing ideas. When someone asks me, how do you explain what Wakelet is? I'm like, it's kind of like Pinterest and Padlet had a baby because you can collect anything and share it dynamically. And then you can like it, you can thumbs up it, you can follow people. So I just think that's super powerful that you can choose to share it with the world or keep it as a private collection. The other piece that I point out for working as a tech coach and supporting teachers is that Wakelet has the ability to have spaces. So I support 5 schools directly and other departments in our district. The idea that you can create spaces for specific people that you're supporting is an option for you to work with your teachers. So I love that you can customize that, use it as an example, invite certain folks that you want to have access to it. So let's be honest, if you coach multiple subject areas, be honest, the math teachers don't really care to see the science resources and the ELA resources and so forth. So you can create custom collections and have them live in certain spaces. Now, you can obviously organize your collections by topics, but sometimes you just want to have a space that they're only going to see that there. So that's a bonus tip, having a space for either your schools that you serve or having it for the content areas. That's just kind of an idea I wanted to throw out there that you might find beneficial. So again, the idea that I can keep some of my favorite resources in one place. So for professional development, that I can easily share out content and say, hey, check out this collection, or hey, you were asking me about whiteboard tools. Okay, I'm going to send this collection. And because it's living in a Wakelet collection, it's not like me just giving a list. I can actually provide context. I can add images. I can add instructions. I can add tips that go to this. And even when you embed a video link, you can customize that content as well. So probably my absolute favorite way that I've been sharing Wakelet with my teachers that I support, and they started doing this the last couple of years, is using it to create a hyperdoc lesson. So modeling this for you as a tech coach, modeling it for the teachers, but being able to create templates that you can share out and your teachers can use. So love the hyperdoc concept, but you can level up if you add it to a Wakelet collection, because you can use the power of immersive reader. So now I've made this content accessible. And what's great is you can create a collection, and then we know when we plan for differentiated lessons, and this would work for modeling for teachers in their content area in math, or if you're doing differentiated professional development, you plan for the middle and then you differentiate high or low. And when you do that, you can literally just make one collection, start as your baseline, and then add resources as needed. So again, using the hyperdoc style model of a lesson for your PD. So kind of a good option to do that. So I actually have a template that I have in there. And again, the reason I so love it is it can be a self-paced lesson, but you have the power of immersive reader to make it more accessible. This is an example of a 5E model one. I actually have that as a template. You can make a copy of it if you want. It's on my profile, and I believe the link has been dropped in the chat for you to access it. So again, going through the whole 5E model, you can have all of those elements. You can add in emojis, you can add in hyperlinks, you can add in bold text and all of that to make the learning engaging. So modeling for teachers that I'm working with, how they can use this with their students, it serves 2 purposes. They're experiencing what it's like to be a student, and they're able to grab this idea and share it with their learners. A couple other ways that I love using Wakelet to share resources with teachers is a video playlist. I have a ton of videos on YouTube, and you can make a playlist on YouTube, and that's great and easy, but you can't provide any context, and it's not as visually engaging. So you can add choosing one of the layouts, you can use media view, or you can use mood board or one of the other options to organize this in a visual way, and you can provide context. So now it doesn't just show the video, it gives you what is the video about. You can actually add in information just to help support that. So for me, with teachers are like, oh, what are some videos you have? So this is like a ton of my live streaming PD tips and stuff that I've created. I put it in a Wakelet collection. I can send out one link and out it goes. Another way as a tech coach that you can use Wakelet is for a weekly agenda. So when you're meeting with your teachers, you can use it. Here's what we're going to be doing. And it can be an ongoing collection as you meet with teachers. So a lot of times there's like, well, where's that Google Doc? Where's that Microsoft? Where do we put that? Who has that? That if it's living in a collection, you can have that be an ongoing agenda. Another way that I've seen some amazing tech coaches, I got to give a shout out to special ed techie. One of my friends that does a lot with Wakelet. You should check out her collections. She does amazing newsletters, and her tech tips are done for teachers are done through Wakelet, which is a great way to share out content. So you as a tech coach could use it to share out what's going on, whether it's a weekly newsletter or a monthly newsletter, and share it out very easily. Hugh mentioned digital portfolios, and that's another example that I wanted to share out as well, because you can add just about anything into a Wakelet collection. I haven't come across anything that says that I can't put in there that I would want to, because I can hyperlink to any resource, add in an image. I can even add in animated GIFs. I can link to PDF files. I can even add in Flipgrid. So if I want to have a reflection piece, so literally I can build this portfolio of artifacts that I've collected working with teachers, or as teachers are working on their certification or something. For example, I just renewed my MIE expert certification. I can say, hey, I want to pull in resources to document what I've done in this upcoming year. So when I get ready to renew next year, I've got all those artifacts in one place. So portfolio is definitely a great way to go. You can make it public or private, and you can collaborate on it. So it could be something that maybe it's a team portfolio of your work. Okay. Another way that I think is a great way to use Wakelet is as a back channel or for collaboration during learning sessions or during PDs. There were several back channels that we used to be able to use, and they went away, and then new ones came back. But to me, the idea of using a collection from Wakelet, I can add in resources. You can choose who has access, and technically during the live session, you can open it up. So if you're providing a training, you can say, all right, everybody add to it. And then you as the owner of the collection say, all right, that's it. We're not going to allow any more additions. We've captured what we need to capture. And you can also choose who has rights to add and subtract things. So I think that using it as a back channel, because you can take text notes, you can take add in hyperlinks if you found a great resource or a video that's supporting the learning or the discussion that you're having with your teachers. So having that ongoing back channel, I think, is another great way to use Wakelet to support your teachers in your role as a tech coach or an instructional coach. So I'm curious, because this is the brain trust right here. So I'm going to ask a question. I'd love, and I'm watching the chat as the comments are coming in. What is an idea you have? Like that Hugh mentioned some great ideas, and I think I've mentioned a couple of good ideas. What is an idea that you have as a tech coach that you could use Wakelet to support your teachers or your learners? I'm just curious. I got a ton of videos that are linked, believe it or not, in my Wakelet collections. So if you want to check out more of those ideas, I did a 10 ideas series of a bunch of different PDs. So I have a collection on my page that says Jen's 10 idea series, and they all include different tools. So it was 10 tools over 10 days with 10 ideas. So I did want to share those out. And if you're, so I'm curious, because we got some new folks here, I'm pretty sure. How are you feeling? Are you excited? Did you get at least one idea from myself or Hugh? Are you riding the wave? Or you give me, I'm just curious, if you're watching this from the future, the folks that are watching the recording, still would love in the comments, how are you feeling? Are you doing some Wakelet, are you riding the wave big time, or are you new to the waves and you're just dipping your toe in the ocean, so to speak? Just curious. I see my folks here that are already saying that they're super excited. But hopefully, there were a few ideas, and I know that we're going to hop back over here and chat with Hugh and Tisha to, she had some questions, and I'm watching the chat to see if any other brilliant ideas, because what do we do as educators best? We borrow from each other. We steal the ideas. So I would love to, get some more ideas from some folks.
Jennifer, Jen, she likes to be called Jen. She taught me that. She taught me there's lots of ways to say Jennifer, and you have to ask. So make sure you're asking if you know Jennifer. But Jen, this is my favorite. I was writing lots of notes. I'm sure you caught it too, but this is my favorite thing. I just started laughing so hard. Wakelet is like as if Pinterest and Padlet had a super baby. And I feel like that is the perfect example to explain Wakelet, because you can do so many things. You can put so many artifacts. It's true. I was looking at Pinterest the other day to see what I could do with it, because I always like to compare. I'm very curious. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I want to put a PDF in. It's not letting me do that, or it's not letting me do this. Wakelet lets me do that.
Yeah.
So I love that analogy. I think everybody did too on the chat. I love that you highlighted spaces. I wanted to say, I don't know if you two felt this way when you started using Wakelet, but as a tech coach, when I was using Wakelet, I was like, no, spaces is overwhelming me right now. I can't even look to the left side of the screen. But then I did exactly what you said, which is using a space just for my school stuff. And then I realized, oh, I can also have a space for my conference presentations and a space for my students, right? And then the light bulb went off. So I think that it was a great share. Of course, I got really excited when you showed the 5E model and HyperDocs. So I'm really glad you shared that with our audience. So many great shares there. Hugh, do you have anything you want to add or anything that stood out?
Well, I mean, I felt very similar to you about spaces. That's kind of mind-blowing for me, using them for content areas or grade level teams. That's genius. I haven't done that, and I plan on it now that you've mentioned that, Jen. I kind of feel I feel like you say you felt after mine. I was like, I follow that at all. There were a ton of techniques that you shared that I had never even thought about doing. Back channels during PD for people to contribute to and to collaborate, on their own time, sort of an asynchronous approach. Wakelet as a means to create playlists. I was thinking about that in the classroom, as Wakelet as a playlist for teachers to create and allow students to navigate through. I mean, there were a ton of things that you mentioned that I was just like, never thought of doing that with Wakelet before. Genius.
And everybody wants to know the name of the friend that you have, Jen, that they should all go follow.
All right, hold on. We're gonna do this live. I'm gonna find her collection and see if I can share it out, because I want to make sure she has it named under her stuff. Because it is good stuff. Well, we learn from the best, and we steal the best ideas. So I'm Googling it right now, not Googling it. I'm looking on, because I follow her on Wakelet. And so that's one of the things that it's so awesome that you can follow folks and be like, oh, okay, let's see what new stuff they're sharing. So hold on, I'm going to find it.
It's true. If you are on Wakelet and you are not following people, we're going to put in the chat again, our Wakelet producer is going to put both Jen and Hugh's profile in the chat so that you can follow them. What I love about the follow feature, and it did take me a long time also, Hugh, to get to where I was using the notification bell on Wakelet. I just ignored it. I'm going to be honest with you. There were some things that I was like, I just can't even look at it right now because it's overwhelming. But now I get notifications when people interact with collections, or if they add a collection that's public and I'm following them. So make sure you're using Wakelet to follow those creators like Jen and Hugh, who have incredible things to share. So as we're waiting for Jen to pop that in the chat for all of you, make sure to pop any of your questions in. I have a couple of questions that I want to ask, and I'm going to do a quick fire with Hugh and Jen right now, just as a conversation piece. So this isn't a Wakelet podcast, but I really want to get their view on this. So the first quick fire question I have is, what is your one piece of advice for anybody, not just teachers, but anybody who may be starting out using Wakelet?
I suppose I would start with the question. I would start broad and say, like, what is it that you find yourself needing to achieve the most? You know what I mean? Like, what is it when you're running to the computer to do something. I'm finding myself automatically framing this question for a teacher, but, but
Sure.
what do you need the most out of a site that allows you to both organize and share, and I feel like whatever that answer is that comes from someone is going to steer you towards how to support somebody's first initial use of Wakelet.
It's a great answer.
That is a great answer. Speaking of answers, I got the answer. It is special techie. I dropped it in our private chat. So if our producer can drop the link in the main comments chat, it's special techie. Pam Hubler does some great stuff. So I wanted to give her a shout out. But anytime I work with teachers, and I think Hugh would probably, echo this, is that when you're trying to not convince them to use a tool, get them to have the buy-in of a new tool, it's like, well, what is the goal and what purpose does it serve? Is it going to make your life easier? Is it going to make it, is it relevant, and all of that? So anytime we start with the end in mind, what are you trying to accomplish? And yes, let me show you how this tool can accomplish that. I think that Wakelet has so much flexibility in terms of just the functionality of it, and the fact that I got to give a shout out to Wakelet designers and the team that does the development, that says we welcome ideas, and they take those suggestions and they improve it. It is just super exciting that you foster this community, because I've met some amazing folks, online, that now we've connected during when I do other things. They pop up and they're like, hey, and I'm like, those are my Wakelet friends. That's awesome. So, but such a powerful resource, and borrow the ideas from everyone. I mean, and if you got a great idea, share it. That's the other thing, is don't just keep your ideas to yourself, share it out so that someone can either, just like anything, modify it and tweak it to their best needs.
Great advice. Both of you, great advice. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit. I want you to be thinking about student engagement and student ownership. So we, as coaches, as tech coaches, that's really one of the goals that we all go into classrooms really with the idea of. So how would you suggest teachers use Wakelet to inspire students to take ownership of their learning?
I would say two things. One, if you're using it for differentiated lessons, we're making a big push to personalized learning here in our district. And so I see Wakelet as an excellent avenue for that. Being able to differentiate content for learners is one thing. So you as the teacher are pushing out the content of what they need to learn, and they can use it to collect the resources. But also that ownership piece of them collecting their learning, them documenting their learning. So using it as a student portfolio piece and saying, hey, this is my artifact. This is what I've done. This is my Flipgrid reflection. And they are, I created this on Adobe Spark, and I'm going to pull this in to show what I learned in math. So having them use it as a portfolio piece gives them that ownership. And when they can showcase what they've done, and if they're the ones making the choice, like, I want to showcase this, this was great, or this is something I could have worked on, they really kind of have that ownership. And usually they're more engaged and passionate about their own learning.
Yeah, I think Jen nailed it. I would only echo a few of the things that she said and say that, when it comes to student ownership, I think it's about awareness is the first thing. Are they aware of what it is they need to be striving towards, of what it is that they're learning? And then Wakelet lends itself to that, because as they're moving through a certain unit or a certain content area, they can just collect photos, collect resources, collect documents into this collection. And then the next thing would be setting a goal or managing their progress in some way. And again, Wakelet lends itself to that. They could own some sort of, whether it's a tangible chart or a spreadsheet or something, put that in the collection. So now they're not only aware of what they're learning, but they're tracking their own learning. And then finally, if they were this document, this collection could then facilitate their ability to make choices. Now that I am progressing here, what choice could I make towards the next area, or what next thing do I need to push myself towards? I mean, yeah, I think Wakelet in a number of different ways would lend itself towards students owning their own place in their learning.
I love what you said, Jennifer, about that Adobe Spark integration. If you follow me on Twitter, you know how excited I was about that, because I'm all about moving those students from consuming things from the teachers and then creating. I want my students to create and show their learning. I think I just love, like you both said, Flipgrid, Adobe Spark. You could have your students build portfolios or even private portfolios, like he was saying, with his teachers. And have them do I do student-led conferences. I guess you could do the same thing with a teacher as well, but it really makes those students critically think through their learning and their information and their choices, which I find as a high school teacher, former high school teacher, they're not getting that in a lot of places, right? They're just going to TikTok and scrolling through and consuming that content, not really reflecting on it or talking about it. So we don't have any more questions in the chat, but I do have one last question. And we know many teachers and tech coaches out there they've already been in school, like Jen, for a little bit of time, almost a month. And then we have other teachers and tech coaches going back to school this week. And we know that for some teachers, it's even harder than it was last year. And I know Jen and Hugh, as support people in their district, understand this. It's much harder for some teachers. But what I have, my last question is for those teachers that need some encouragement. And I know as a tech coach, you especially are giving out so much energy supporting. So you can reflect on your own practice here as well. How do you gain perspective and re-energize yourself for learning, or re-energize those learning spaces that you have with teachers and students?
Wow. Yeah. In this time, it's the conversation I try to bring to the table with educators right now is just try to bring to the forefront of your mind back. What was it? What is it that what is that impact you're making, and what is it that you genuinely love? A lot of cases, that love of the content needs to be brought back out in teachers and in ourselves, as tech coaches even, and that can reinvigorate us at when we need it most, as we do right now. And so I try to do that whenever we consider how we're creating these learning spaces, or even creating PD or whatever. I try to think about those things. How can I recenter what we're doing on the very reason we got into education first, and then also the very content areas that we just adore, and that that we just should try to come back to the love of those things.
And I guess one of the things I'm trying to get teachers to focus on is that take a lot of those skills that they learned in the last year and a half, where they had to pivot to, we were not a one-to-one district at that time. We are now, which is great, because now everyone's seen, everyone needs to have a device. This is important. But that they translate what they did. That wasn't pandemic teaching. That was a new shift, and let's continue on with that. So a lot of my conversations with teachers are like, well, what worked when you were doing it remotely? What shifts did you make that you were like, hey, that's great. So let's capitalize on that and focus on the positive things. And if, everything is students first. If you focus on the students, then hopefully and drown out all the other stuff, we'll get back to some sort of normalcy, I guess. But I'm hoping that teachers are going to say, hey, this really worked and it kept my students engaged. Let's continue with that. Because I think a lot of students are also going to be like, hey, we can't go back to old school teaching. I don't want you to just hand me a piece of paper. I've been on a computer for a year and a half. Can you jazz it up? Can you use some cool stuff? So I think that's kind of the teachers came back and were ready to revert because they were back in their classrooms and trying. Right. My job this year is going to be like, so let's revisit some of those great things you were doing last year. Can we revisit that?
I think you make a phenomenal point, Jen. I don't know that many of the teachers I've visited with so far have even gotten out of the fray enough to look and see those great new skills that they have, to be like, well, oh yeah, you know what? I do know how to do this now, and it's effective. And So I think you're absolutely right. Bringing our attention to the things that we now are pretty skilled at, but are actually just good instruction and that we need to carry forward.
Absolutely. You two have some great answers. What an incredible session. If you enjoyed hearing from Jen and Hugh today, give us a thumbs up in the chat so we know that you loved all of their shares. If you have questions for either Hugh or Jen, you can find them on Twitter. They're both on Twitter and they both are on Wakelet. So just reach out to them. Like Jen said, she is willing to share with you whatever you need. And the Wakelet community is just incredible with support. So maybe our producers can one more time pop your Twitter account links and your Wakelet account links in the chat. And then do you guys have any last words? Anything you want to share before we go off the air?
I think I'm
Go ahead, Hugh. Go.
I was actually just going to repeat something you said, Jen, and that is that it's just an honor to be here and to join all of you, because this is a phenomenal community. This Wakelet community is really something else, and so it's really great to join all of you today. Opportunities to be around folks that are excited about things like this, to visit and to share ideas like this. It's just really a great thing to experience. And so, just thanks. And please continue to share, because we only benefit from it as well. So thank you so much, Tisha. Thank you, Jen. And we'll see you around again at the next Wakelet thing, I'm sure.
Yeah. This was awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that Wakelet lifts up educators and gives us opportunities to share and connect with other educators. And I think that is so powerful. And so now I have my Wakelet friends from around the globe, and hopefully we're going to see people in the real world sometime soon. So thank you again for this opportunity to share today. And for those of you that tuned in live, thank you. And those of you that are watching from the future, hope all is well. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you both for putting time into sharing with our community. It just has been a really great time with both of you. I can't wait to see both of you in person. Hopefully that will be very soon. For those of you watching, be sure to follow Wakelet on all the social media channels. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. You can follow Rick and I on TikTok now. Thanks to some
I'm
of our
check out the
yeah,
I can't wait to check out I'm checking it out.
I'm not going to be dancing a whole lot, Jen, but I am dipping my toe in it, because I believe that we should always keep learning. So I'm trying to battle that veteran teacher mentality. So definitely check that out. We also have a Wakelet podcast. You can go to the YouTube channel and look at any of those past sessions from Community Week. Jen and Hugh have been with us before. And just know that all of you out there, all of you educators, you are so dear to Wakelet's heart. We love you, we support you, and we are always here for you. We hope you have the best week. And until next time, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.